Well, the financial impact, candidly, Dennis, has not been at the forefront of our conversations. We've made decisions based on the health and well-being of people around our programs. There certainly are revenue implications. We have staff working through those. I'm certain every conference is working to assess the financial impact. And I'm not going to make predictions other than we've seen alterations in the NCAA tournament that no doubt will have a financial impact. I'm grateful to be in the Southeastern Conference. There's no place I'd rather be in these tumultuous times. And I'm certain we'll move forward financially in a positive way, but we'll have to figure out all of the adjustments and impacts in the days and weeks ahead.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Edgar Thompson with Orlando Sentinel.
Yeah, hey, Greg. Just to be clear, spring games canceled. Does that mean no spring football practices? That they're off completely? That even
it does not apply to spring practices at this time, and I think that's the important qualifying phrase. We have said no athletic activities through April 15th. That doesn't mean we'll be back to normal or to practice activities April 16th. It was just a date certain that allows our administrators to communicate with our coaches with their student athletes, and it has resulted in the departures from campus. If you look at the national public messaging about no gatherings above 50, certainly difficult to conduct any football practice under that limitation, and even with smaller numbers that have been communicated, 10 is often referenced, thereby making it impossible into May, as been stated. So I'm not going to be overly optimistic about the return to practice. We haven't fully foreclosed that opportunity, but I think practically that window is pretty narrow.
Okay, and spring meetings, is that something that is out that you always do online? I mean, do over video chats and things, or what?
We have not. What I have is a 3-page calendar of events in which we're involved. We have another list of kind of non-SEC specific activities involving our staff or our membership. I'm not sure how long that calendar may be. So there's 2 different calendars. At first, the 3-pager starts right this week. We were supposed to have an officiating training session for football because we don't simply start Labor Day weekend with football. There's a lot of prep. That's now a video training session for our football officials. I use that as a reference to indicate we're adjusting rapidly. Under review when we get into May, so pretty much through April, everything has been canceled. We get into May, and some things will be conducted via alternate delivery. We haven't canceled spring meetings yet, but we're looking at contingency planning given the practicalities and realities presented to us at this time.
Thanks for doing this call, Greg. Appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
Next, we'll go to Jimmy Hines with Knoxville Sports Radio.
Commissioner, have you have an opinion in regard to whether or not spring sport athletes should be given another year of eligibility?
I'm certainly open to that. I've seen the national messaging. I actually just printed about 8 pages of analysis from our conference compliance staff. Myself and my colleagues have had just preliminary discussions about what might this mean. I know among the conferences there's conversations as well. The first read is that's an appropriate step. From my perspective, yet we have to understand the full set of implications. And I hope we'll move through those rapidly, because I think one of the assets for our young people is knowing definitively what their eligibility status will be going forward. I do want to say I don't think this is simply a senior issue. Everybody in our programs, particularly spring sports, had their season disrupted. So my encouragement is we take a broad look at what type of opportunities we offer going forward.
I know there are a lot of things on the table. Is there any idea when that might be addressed?
I know nationally there's work taking place now, Jimmy, but I don't have a date certain when an answer will be provided.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
the Tuscaloosa News.
Commissioner, in terms of championship events on campus, excuse me, does a rotation for those with the institutions that were in rotation for this year, and will there be accommodation made for them, or do they simply have to wait their turn in the next rotation?
I'll say definitively, I don't think it's wait another 14 years. We have a championships working group that's one of our standing committees, and through our staff meetings virtually this week, we've already signed to them the consideration of the rotation. Cecil, so you're in Tuscaloosa, obviously, and softball was scheduled to be hosted by the University of Alabama. We don't just automatically right now flip things forward. That's a conversation with our membership, but I also am confident we're not going to be waiting just 14 years for that opportunity to come back around.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
Next is Seth Emerson at The Athletic.
Hey, Greg. Obviously, you guys were caught off guard by the NCAA announcement of the spring sports championships cancellation. Given, I guess, more time to reflect on that, how do you feel about the communication there and the decision? Do you feel ultimately it was the right one, but that you all wish you had been consulted?
Sitting here today, there's clarity around right decisions, and that would be in the category of right decisions. And what's been interesting is in real time, I think, for example, Paul Maneri was on with Paul Feinbaum, and he learned while on the air of that decision. I had learned from a text message from the NCAA national office as I was in the arena dealing with our decision. So keep in mind, we decided to suspend our competition for 3 weeks based upon the information we had available. And what I expressed was surprise in that moment because I didn't know that was on the agenda last Thursday. Number one, and said I want to learn more about the decision-making process. There will be a time to learn more, and I think my Division I colleagues have the same interest that I have, and how perhaps we could have communicated better, but everyone was working in real time to make the best decisions on the best available information, and that's the way things played out on Thursday, is that we're going to learn in short order of a pretty big decision. I do think some messaging is important, so I think Jimmy asked about the status of spring sports student athletes eligibility. I think that's actually a really important issue to work through in relatively short order so the young people around our programs have clarity on what's next for their future.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome.
Next we'll go to Tom Murphy at the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.
Hi, Greg. I'd reiterate our thanks for having this teleconference. Regarding football, what's the practicality of moving the NCAA calendar to get in practice after May and possibly into June?
Let's not. What I'd say is let's not just define some structure. I'm confident, in fact, if we're not able to practice further this spring, I'm confident that we'll be seeking opportunities to make sure our teams are adequately prepared heading into the season. Elements of that are going to be guided by the public health realities in front of us. By way of background, our athletics directors now have a daily conference call. We took Sunday off this past weekend, but we've spoken for an hour or more every day identifying issues. I expect we'll have a smaller group from our campuses examine issues around out-of-season practice in football, in soccer, and in volleyball to think about as we turn the page, head to the next chapter of 2021, given what's occurred, the disruption that's occurred, how do we best allow our teams and support our teams in preparation? So I don't mean to be obtuse in that answer. It's just we're dealing with a lot of these undefined circumstances, but just know on our mind is how do we help our teams adequately prepare in advance of the fall season.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next we'll go to Tony Barnhart the SEC network.
Commissioner, obviously, SEC Media Days is going to be in Atlanta this year, and there's a lot of moving parts. Can you give us any sense of what the process will be like? Because I would assume there is going to come a date where a decision has to be made in advance of that event in Atlanta.
I'm going to be half full right now, Tony, and say we're full steam ahead on our Atlanta planning for Media Days. Last Thursday morning, I was full steam ahead on playing a basketball tournament and was disrupted. So we're going to prepare for disruption, but we're going to plan as if in July we'll have the Media Days opportunity as scheduled. And that's the best answer I can give you at this moment.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.